My name is Sarah. I'm standing on the third-floor balcony of a historic building in Asheville's Arts District, sipping a warm cup of coffee. Below me, people are bustling through the fiery colors of fall. It's been a year since I signed the divorce papers, and this apartment, though not much bigger than our old house, breathes freedom. I remember the day I received that strange email from the regional HR director of my ex-husband's company. It informed me that Mark, my ex-husband, had been transferred to a branch in a small town with a downgraded role. It wasn't a huge shock, but I didn't expect things to move so fast. Let me take you back. My life used to seem perfect on the outside. I lived in a cozy cottage in a small town near Asheville with my well-behaved son, Jake, and Mark, who had a stable job in international trade. But behind that perfect facade, I endured 15 years of patience, constantly whispering to myself that things would get better. Mark's job kept him away from home most of the time. When Jake was 6, Mark started taking long business trips. At first, it was just a few weeks, then months, and eventually, he was hardly home except for major holidays. I understood the financial pressure and his work duties, so I never blamed him. After Jake was born, I gave up my career in event planning. We agreed that I'd stay home to raise him, and I did it wholeheartedly. I took care of every meal, every parent-teacher conference, and every late-night fever. In the beginning, Mark used to praise me, saying I was amazing and he was lucky to have me. But as the years passed, those words were replaced by short texts like busy or don't call. 2 years ago, I went back to work. Not because we needed the money, but because I needed to feel alive again. I started teaching flower arrangement at a local community center. It was just a few classes a week, but it reminded me that I was more than just a wife and a mother. And then I started writing. I used the pen name A.L. Reed. No one, not even Mark, knew it was me. My debut novel, posted on a small writing forum, gained over 100,000 followers. I kept it to myself, thinking it was just for me. Jake is now 17. He's more perceptive than his quiet nature suggests. One day, I caught him staring at our wedding photo for a long time. When I asked him what he was thinking, he simply said, "It's strange. Dad's never here, but he's in all the photos." I didn't know how to answer him honestly. Every time Mark came home, it felt like a rehearsed play. He'd bring gifts, ask a few polite questions, stay for a few meals, and then leave with promises of more time. I, like a fool, would just nod. Our marriage was neither passionate nor explosive. It was like a glass of water left out too long, clear but tasteless. But I kept holding on for Jake, for the family, and for a real home. Then, one April afternoon, Mark called me on video. It was his first contact in nearly 2 weeks. When his face appeared on the screen, I smiled, but he didn't return the smile. He said, "Sarah, we should get divorced." Those words hit me like a hammer on hollow metal. It felt like a line from a novel I'd never written, but it was real. 3 days later, an express mail arrived. Inside were divorce papers, financial terms, a proposed asset division, and a note telling me to prepare to move. When I called him to confront him, he said our long-distance situation wasn't a marriage anymore. He offered to support Jake until he turned 18 and cover moving costs if needed. I was furious. Jake had just started his junior year in high school, 3 more years until he graduated. How could he think it was that simple? I refused to sign the papers. I demanded that he legally commit to supporting Jake through college. If he didn't agree, I'd take it to family court. Mark hated drama and wanted a quick, quiet divorce. But I wasn't going to be pushed around anymore. Suspicious of his sudden rush to divorce, I started looking into his work emails. I found that for the past 6 months, his emails had come from a small town, not his supposed workplace. I hired an online private investigator, an older woman named Betty. She found that Mark had been living another life with a woman named Lisa and their young son, Ben. He'd rented a small apartment to cover his tracks in case his company checked. I sent Mark an email with photos, demanding that he cover Jake's college tuition, attorney fees, and moving costs if he wanted my signature. Otherwise, I'd present all the evidence in court. He tried to explain, but I wasn't going to accept half-truths. Mark showed up at her house as promised. I confronted him about his other family and the rush to divorce for the sake of Ben's school enrollment. Then I pulled out a stack of legal documents. After his father had a stroke last year, I was the one who took him to therapy every week while Mark didn't even answer his calls. His father, fearing Mark would manipulate things after his death, legally adopted me. This house was now in my name. Also, his father had filed a petition to revoke Mark's inheritance rights, and if approved, the remaining estate would go to Jake. Mark was shocked and speechless. I told him that this house was mine and Jake's, and he needed to find a new place for his other family. He left that day, and I knew the tables had turned. 3 weeks later, I received an email from a big publishing house. They were acquiring the adaptation rights for my novel, Whispering Leaves, to turn it into an animated series. It was a 6-figure licensing deal. I'd spent 3 years quietly writing and growing my readership, never telling Mark because I knew he'd think it was a waste of time. On the contract signing day, I took Jake with me. He was so proud. Afterward, we had dinner at a diner. Jake asked if I was going to tell Mark. I said it was time. Not long after, Mark called. He sounded remorseful. He said he heard about his father and realized he'd messed up. He also said he saw that I was more than just a housewife. I told him I was Elle Reed, the author of Whispering Leaves. He was in disbelief. I also told him that I'd studied family law and property rights in the past 2 years to protect myself. The divorce was finalized, and the income from the adaptations had nothing to do with him. I made it clear that if he was calling to claim a share, it was impossible, and if he was calling to come back, it was too late. After that, I learned that Mark's mistress, Lisa, called his office to verify paperwork for residency sponsorship for her and Ben. The call was recorded, and Mark was cited for violating the company's ethics policy. He was demoted and transferred. One late autumn day, I received a package with a bank check for $85,000 and a note saying, alimony. Don't contact me again. I laughed. A man who thought he could outsmart everyone now had to pay to be forgotten. I used that money to start a scholarship in honor of my former mother-in-law, who always treated me like a daughter. The scholarship is for high school girls in the state who want to study literature, education, or law, the things that saved me from a life in the shadows. Jake is now a freshman in digital media at the university. He comes home on weekends, and every time he walks in, he greets me with a big smile and a long hug. I've learned that freedom isn't about walking away. It's about having the courage to stay true to myself after everything falls apart. I'm no longer the Sarah who lived in waiting. I'm a mother, a writer, and the one who defines who I am. Maybe one day, I'll write a new story without a pen name, but for now, I'm content with the journey I've been on.